Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February CLLG Zoom talk. And today we have our speaker, Swapnil Kumbhojkar from India, will share with us a very fascinating talk. It will be about 40 minutes talk, and any questions will follow after the talk. So over to you, Swapnil.
Wonderful. Well, good evening, everybody. And as you can see, the topic I'm going to share today with you is my experiences. It's a little bit of vast or a very expansive or extensive subject I'm going to talk about. And it's very difficult actually to get to the core of all the birds or all the cats of the Indian subcontinents. But the first thing I wanted to show you is that we too have the avocet. And it's one of the most favorite birds of mine. And I was so delighted when I was in the UK and working with RSPB when I saw the avocet right as the logo of RSPB. And we do have the Indian avocet, which you can see on the screen here. It's one of my favorite birds. It's widely seen in India. We get to see this bird in the winters, especially. And well, in the summers, it's endemic at some places, but most of the time it's migratory. So right now it's a wonderful time. And this picture is clicked from last month. It's one of my friends called Prashant who has kindly agreed to share this picture with you all. So welcome to India. Let me first thank you all all the friends of mine and RSPB group for inviting me. Then all the members of RSPB. I have a very special connection with RSPB. When I used to live in the UK, I have met no less than 30 to 38 groups. And it's always a pleasure to interact and share my experiences. And they were pretty delighted to meet one of the rangers from Kruger National Park in flesh and blood. And they always wanted me to talk about Kruger. And incidentally, I'm very delighted to talk to you guys because this is my first talk about Indian wildlife. And all the time I have talked about South Africa, South America, or the polar bears, and even the Scandinavian wildlife. But this is the very first time I'm talking to the RSP members about Indian wildlife. And I hope that I am able to generate good interest, and I hope most of you must have been to India, so some of things will be really familiar to you. So let's see how it goes. Let me also thank the Jalana Wildlife Research Foundation, who is supporting my research work in Jaipur, and we will come to that at the end of the talk. Then all of these friends who have generously given their photographs of some wonderful birds in India. Then Tejaswini Shende, who is one of our main sponsors, and Rajasthan Forest Department is the forest department who gives me permits for my research work. So a big thank you to all of you. And this is another of my favorite pictures. I happened to meet Sir David when I was I attended one of his talks, and he was delighted to know that I am an Indian working in Kruger National Park. And he said, well, I have not been there for quite some time. And then I said, have you been to India? And he said, same goes with India. So we are just waiting for him to come down to India and, take him around. And hopefully I'll be part of, we had one of his lectures arranged very recently, but due to the COVID situation, we had to cancel the entire conference. But we are looking forward to welcome him. And all of you as well, whenever you plan to come to India, feel free to get in touch with me for any wildlife information or anything you need on wildlife. Right, then as you can see, the last one, that's one of very proud moment for me to be with you all. I am associated with RSPB in various contexts, and it's wonderful again to talk to you guys today. Right, so there we go. Now it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning in India. I'm right now based in Pune, a place in the central India. And this is a time for looking out for owls. And these are some of the owls which we get very close to my place, which is right in the heart of the city. So I am going to actually tell you my story about birding in India, or birding in and around the cities of India, and how the people and the wildlife are intertwined. It's not a different world. It's the same world that we are sharing, and let's see how it goes. There are some more owls. By the way, I'll just keep on giving you some names. It's really not, I mean, you guys will get bored with the names of all the birds if I tell you. This is a barn owl, this is a brownfish owl, then the Indian eagle owl, which is a very pretty owl, and the mottled wood owl. But my favorite is the Indian scops owl. This is one of the most beautiful owls that we see. This is the one which we don't see in the cities or the urban areas. These are mostly in the wooded areas. However, we saw one of these species in Jaipur very recently, where it's a winter migrant. And what happens is there are some urban wildlife pockets in India, and these owls or these migratory variants, they come and stay there, or they come and stop or halt for a while before they embark their next journey. And that's the time when we get to see and click all these wonderful birds around. So this is from Jaipur, actually. And now let's see how India is. Most of you must have seen the Indian map, and most of you I'm sure, must have been to India. Now, if you see the entire expanse of the Indian subcontinent, in geographical terms, I'm calling Indian subcontinent. Let's not go political with what is Pakistan and what is Afghanistan and everything. But the Indian subcontinent, we are really blessed with amazing biodiversity. Right from the Himalayas, where we have the snow-capped mountains, we have tundra and semi-tundra climates there. Then we get down to the tree. We just get down the tree line, and then we have all kind of coniferous forests. Then we have the alluvial plains, where most of the rivers of India, the major rivers, as you can see on the map, they flow from west to east, and they create a very unique ecosystem or a habitat, which is mostly exploited by the farmers. It's mostly an agricultural land, but coming down in the central India, you see lot and lot of deciduous forests. Then we have moist deciduous forest, we have dry deciduous forest. Then we go to the west, which is this area. This is a arid and a semi-arid region. We have one of the biggest deserts in the world. Then we go to the east, and we have a very unique kind of mountain range, which is called as a Patkai range. And this has coniferous and tropical rainforest. Then again in the south, if you go, just cross the central India, and then go to the south, there are two mountain ranges. One is formed of igneous rocks, and one is formed of metamorphic rocks. Then we have a mountain range which is cutting a desert. And then as you slide south, then we have another rainforest. And then, of course, we have a big coastline. So we have a coastal ecosystem with mangroves. Then we have islands, as you can see on the eastern bay, you can see these two island groups, Andaman and Nicobar. And on the west coast, we have these islands called as Lakshadweep. Lakshadweep literally means 100 islands. So as you have 1,000 islands in Canada, we have these 100 islands in India. And they have one of the most pristine coral reefs. And the island bird life is very distinct, very unique as compared to the mainland. And we have, again, a different set of flora and avifauna, which we can get on the islands. Now, having said that, it's very difficult actually to concise the birding scenario or the bird biodiversity in India in a span of 40 minutes. Now, we were discussing like what should we talk, and I actually am a birder. I started my career with wildlife and environment and conservation, everything with birding. So I have a terrific passion for birds, and then I have a terrific passion for leopards as well. So Addison was really kind enough. She said, "Okay, well, let's have a blend and let's have a small talk on the birds and on the cats." Now, what we are going to do is I will take you through a small journey on some very peculiar habitats of birding and some very peculiar or very extraordinary habitats where the birds there have shaped, or they are shaping, or their extinction is shaping another scenario in India. And I'll come to that once we go ahead in the talk. And these are two very important species that we are talking. And let's see like three distinctive biomes or ecozones in India, which are related to birds. And then we come down to the cats. I'm sure all of you must have known India for tigers, but I'm a leopard man, and I'm going to highlight you a little bit on the leopards of India, what is going to be. And then I will tell you the significance of how these leopards, or the consequence of the extinction of some bird species, are helping develop coexistence between the humans and the leopards. So let's go ahead. These are the total. This is the entire scenario of India with the birding sites. Now you can see there are 116 bird sanctuaries in India, and the total area is 23,184 square kilometers. Now this, if you consider the entire forest cover that we have in India, it's around 22% roughly. And entire forest plus green cover is around 28%. So let's take, we are talking between 23% and 28%. And out of which we have 116 bird sanctuaries. Now, when we say bird sanctuaries, what we are looking here is mainly protected areas, like designated protected areas. We call them as sanctuaries and national parks. So these are designated specifically by the government of India, and there are different set of rules which govern these particular sites. So these are 116 bird, I would say, sanctuaries. But as we go ahead, I'll tell you that how the bird life in India is not restricted to protected areas. Rather, now there is a different stream in the research wing, wherein they are looking at areas which are outside the protected areas for conservation. So the thing is, in India, as you know, we have a population of 1.3 billion, which is 1/7 of the entire world. So every seventh person is an Indian. And it's a very interesting coincidence that we have around 1,300 species, which are also 1/7 of the world bird population species, which means every seventh bird in the world is found in India. So very interesting coincidence. I just came across that, and now this is how the 160. If you see the map of India on the left, which is this one with the dark red spots, these are the birding hotspots in India. And if you see on the right, these are the wildlife sanctuaries in India. Now imagine, just overlap these two maps and see how rich or how nutrient intense we have, nutrient intense wildlife sanctuaries or wildlife zones we have in India. And mind you, these are all densely human populated areas. So these many sanctuaries we have, there is a lot of pressure on the sanctuaries. There is a lot of pressure on the human population or the human habitats as far as sharing of resources is concerned. But still, we have a terrific biodiversity. We have a terrific richness as far as species is concerned. And you can see from the map that it's spread evenly across entire India. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we have biodiversity ranging from the snow-capped mountains to the coastal belt and everything. So you can see how it's widely distributed. Here I have not taken the entire Indian subcontinent. It's just the Indian map, political map. Now look at this one. Here we see in the central that these are the states with maximum green cover. And obviously there are going to be different kind of forests. In southern India, we have got these forests called as Shola forest, which are very unique to the southern India. Then we have these other conifer, deciduous and rainforest. But you can see two very distinctive areas on the west. This is the state of Rajasthan. And in the center, we see a state called as Telangana, which is a very newly formed state. And you see very less or absolutely zero tree cover as far as comparing with the other states of India is concerned. In spite of all this, you can see the map of Rajasthan and see the species that we have. In spite of no tree cover or zero tree cover, we have the tiger, we have the leopard, then we have great Indian bustard, we have the crocodiles, we have migratory birds coming in, we have lots of antelopes. Now, I was in Namibia and I was amazed to see the survival of the oryx out there. And similar conditions prevail in Rajasthan, wherein with virtually no water, perennial water streams or water sources, and virtually no trees, you can see or you can come across one of the densely populated carnivore population. Then also in this state of Telangana, it is bordered by states with thick forest cover, and that brings in all the species richness. You can just take a thumb rule. Where there are sloth bears, it's definitely a good graded jungle. If the sloth bears are present, which means it's a complete jungle with excellent undergrowth, with excellent fruiting trees, excellent flowering trees, and that's what you can see in Telangana. So India is a very, we call it organized or disorganized or organized chaos. From the outside, it looks very chaotic, but once you get into that system, you really find there is a rhythm, there is a wonderful synchronization among all the organisms that live, and that's exactly what happens here. In spite of this biodiversity, there are migrations happening in India. There are endemic species, and together they bring in all that richness. Then also we have a very interesting social structure or social fabric, wherein we have innumerable religions, innumerable beliefs, innumerable faiths, then thousands of tribal people living. Then we have big cities, we have absolutely developed metro cities, and all of them, they live in harmony with nature. It might not appear on the surface, or it might not appear very starkly that, okay, this is a coexistence that's happening, but the undercurrent is very prominent. You can actually feel that all our life, all our Indian life is, intertwined with the natural consequences of natural development that are happening around. Especially in the tribal belts, this is very prominent because their entire life is woven around natural surroundings or natural elements. And that makes conservation a very interesting topic in India. We have been into conservation process for, say, thousands of years. But very recently, like, say, after the Industrial Revolution mostly, and after we got independence, now we are in a passing phase. The Indian scenario is sort of a passing phase wherein we are exploring different methodologies or strategies because there is a lot of urbanization, there is a lot of development, there is a lot of carbon footprint that is coming in, and all kind of infrastructure that is coming up. So we are looking at a kind of a blend of conservation. Here are the different landscapes that we have. So we have the snow-capped mountains, as I said, deserts. Then the rainy season is fantastic. We have 6 seasons in India, and every season creates its own rhythm, its own harmony, and that's what India is all about. Having said that, this picture clearly represents or indicates the kind of lifestyle that we have in India. It's a totally urban landscape now. There are very few pockets in India which are totally serene or virgin or undisturbed by urban development. But in spite of that, this could be a kind of a cross section that one can imagine about Indian wildlife. We have big cities, big skyscrapers followed by the old cities, and then we have some very nice or very traditionally preserved or conserved natural habitats around these cities. So you can see lakes, you can see rivers, you can see farms, and they are just outside the cities. So even in my city where I stay, my locality is most populated locality in Pune. But I just travel around 3 to 4 kilometers from here, and I come across a farming area. Then there is a mountain which is around 10 kilometers from here, and since my childhood, we go birding. We get around 60 to 65 bird species just next to our town, which is only 10 kilometers from my place. So this is what you have to keep in mind when you are looking at Indian wildlife. It's not a very watertight compartment wherein there are protected areas and then there is a developed land. No, we have very porous boundaries. We have animals coming or birds coming in and out. Then we have humans going in and out. Every national park or every sanctuary has a temple or a mosque inside the park, and people actually go on pilgrimage. And the entire wildlife is used to it. Even people are used to it. I mean, in one of the national parks, I know people walk around 14 to 15 kilometers to go to a particular temple on one particular day, which is coming very soon on the 1st of March. And there are tigers actually sitting, say 100 meters or 50 meters by the road. And the tigers are okay with it. The humans are okay with it. There is absolutely no conflict whatsoever. And this happens every year. And for many years, this is happening. So it's a very interesting scenario we have in India. And of course, then coming to the bird, this is our national bird. You can see it's so colorful, and that's what India is all about. It's all colors, 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 and all vibrant life in India. And the bird life in India actually can be said of representing the entire life that we have around us. Now we don't have to go anywhere else. These are some pictures of from my friend's place. He just put a bird bath. I think you guys, all of you are fond of putting bird feeders and bird baths around, and we are very fond of doing that. And the species that we get here are amazing. These are all the species which you actually get in the woods, as well as you find them in cities. Now look at these, the posts or the perches they are using, and they are absolutely wild. They are not urban birds. They don't feed on anything that is urban, but they do come and visit us often. Now this is a flameback woodpecker, which is found only in very good quality forests, and that we can get him on our bird bath, which was an amazing. Even this tree pie, some of you who had been to India must have seen them in the North Indian jungles. And of course, a band of oriental white eyes. So this is how we look at bird watching, and this is how Indians, they start exploring birding. Incidentally, my town Pune, and there's another town which is called as Bangalore. Now it is called Bengaluru. They boast of having the maximum number of bird watchers in India. So it's in our genes, to go out for birding and appreciating birds, and that's what gets us out there. So let's see what's happening in one of the major national parks in India, which is specifically designated to birds. This is called as a Kevaladiya National Park. It's in Bharatpur, and it's world famous for its migratory bird population. And we get around 370 species. So almost 1/3 of the bird species in India are found in Bharatpur. And during winter, there's a migratory flock of birds which comes from Siberia and from Europe, and they come here for their annual feeding, and then they go back in the summer to their breeding grounds. So that's the beauty of this place, and we get to see around 360 floral species. Then that is followed by innumerable worms, insects, snakes, then lizards, which attract these birds. Now, this is very interesting because this is not a natural sanctuary. This is a man-made sanctuary which was created by the Maharajas or the kings of this particular place in Bharatpur. So what they did is they got water from two dams close by, and they created dikes, and they created wetlands, and they created marshes, and they suddenly realized that this is a good place appreciated by the birds, and they come down here for winter migration. And you say thousands and thousands of birds which come down, and naturally they finally turned out into hunting grounds for most of the Maharajas. And till 1956, or till we got independence, all the rulers, Indian, British, they all came down and they had their hunting practices here, and tons and tons of birds were hunted. So in 1972, finally, when the Indian government decided to pass an act saying that no more hunting is allowed in India, then actually it started becoming a heaven for birds. And we had a very interesting bird which came down. You can see one of the biggest cranes in the world. Here it is called as a Saras crane. But we had another crane which is called as a Siberian crane. And the Siberian crane used to frequent Bharatpur a lot. However, it was largely hunted on its way in Mongolia, China, and from Afghanistan, and eventually it stopped. Now, I remember seeing a Siberian crane I have seen the last pair in Bharatpur, which was there. And then now for the past 9 years, there are no Siberian cranes. So these kind of dynamics, they keep on happening. And the challenge for ornithologists is to understand what is happening and how we can really rectify, or we can really, apply our minds to prevent these kind of incidences. Now, I don't say that the Siberian crane is extinct, but it is definitely not in the Indian scenario anymore, and that's a pretty thing. We have lots of other ducks. You can see a shoveler here. You can see the spoonbills. We have got teals. We have gargany teals. We have comb ducks. Name a bird, and it's there. But we don't have a Siberian crane, unfortunately. Now, why I mentioned the Siberian crane is now we are going to talk about two species which are very, very critical for the Indian scenario. And one is the Great Indian Bustard. It's one of the heaviest flying birds in India. And those who have been to South Africa or Africa, they must have seen the Kori bustard. So this is a little bit smaller cousin of the Kori bustard. And it's found right now in only one place. And that is in the western border of India, which is in Rajasthan. It's called as a Desert National Park. And that's where now we have the last surviving population of the Great Indian Bustards. Now, when I say a last surviving population, can you imagine what numbers we are talking? It's last 150 we have last 150 individuals, out of which this is a number which has been declared by the state government, but the actual ground people or the actual researchers who are working there, they estimate that we have only 100 numbers now. We don't have more than 100 individuals left in the wild. And that is a big problem because The breeding cycle of these birds is very slow. We have only one egg per year. That too, if it rains good. Now, imagine in a semi-arid or an arid area, what does it mean to have good rains? So the birds, they know that when it is good raining and when good raining time and when to lay an egg. Now they lay only one egg, and which is right on the ground. So all kind of predation happens there. Then there is human intrusion. Then there are a lot of traditional practices practiced by the humans, like grazing. If you're just walking with your goats, you see an egg, you just pick it up. You don't know what you picked up. So there is a lot of predation that happens with these birds. And very recently, with all this non-conventional type of energy resources or energy sources that we are tapping in, the government of India has allocated lands for solar power and wind power. And that being a very open area, a plain area, all this equipment are creating a big hindrance for these birds, especially with their flights, especially with the places where they can hide from predators. And that's big. Now, if you can see here, there is a dead bird, there's a dead bustard, which is being examined by one of the researchers here. His name is Radhesham Bishnoi. And he's been looking into the reasons. And one of the main reasons for the death of these birds is predation by dogs. And we'll come to the feral dogs issue soon, but this is one of the very critical bird, and our estimate is that within in the coming 10 years, this bird will be extinct from the earth. It's going to have its fate like the dodo, and we have a network of researchers and field workers who are trying very desperately on all fronts to save this species, because it's very farmer friendly. It eats away lots and lots of pests. Especially in Rajasthan, there is this locust, a big wave of locusts that comes in every year. And that is a very favorite food for this bird. So the locusts, which actually destroys the farms, are being eaten by the bustards. So their existence is of paramount importance. And we are trying our best to look at the conservation efforts, and hopefully after 10 years, when I talk to you again, I have some good news for you. Let's hope so. Then coming to another species which is very critical for the Indian conservation scenario is the vulture. Now, till 1980, everything was fine in India. There was a perfectly balanced ecosystem. Let's say roughly 1980. It didn't happen overnight, but these guys are the scavengers, as you know. So they are excellent cleaners for the carcasses that are left around. Now we have a huge population of cattle in India, and these livestock, when they die, not everywhere there are systems which can take care of the carcasses. So these carcasses were left in the open for the vultures, and the vultures used to clean up. We used to call them vulture restaurants, wherein there was a place designated and you can just go and put the carcasses there, and the vultures used to come down from nearby areas, and they used to just clean up whole system. Now, there was one drug which was used by the veterinarians in India, which is called as a diclofenac, and that drug actually killed or absolutely eliminated our vulture population. So I'll just give you some figures what we are talking of vulture populations. In 1980, the vulture population of India was 40 million. And in 2017, it has come down to 16,000. So from 40 million, we have come down to 16,000. So that's the effect of just one drug that is being used in the livestock. And that has created a huge problem, because all these carcasses which are required to be cleared now are not cleared. They're not cleaned. The ecosystem is not clean. Now dogs or feral dogs have taken their places, or other cats in India, especially if you see now the hyenas. I know hyenas are not cats, but hyenas are one of the major scavengers in India. Then, of course, now very recently, tigers have taken to scavenging. Then leopards have taken to scavenging. Smaller cats or foxes have taken to scavenging. But there's a big difference. The vulture actually is a very clean way of doing it. All the pathogens that exist, they die when they come in the gut of vultures. And the other scavengers, they carry these pathogens. The pathogens, they do not die. And that is a big threat to further disease spread with the help of scavengers. Actually, now we are helping spreading these diseases. So that's a very critical step. Now, what has happened here is there is an organization in India which is called as Bombay Natural History Society, BNHS, which is based in Mumbai. And they are working meticulously and very sincerely for the conservation of these vultures. So, breeding is one part, breeding in captivity, and then releasing these vultures in the wild again is rewilding is again a very critical step again, because the breeding of vultures is very slow. So they have opened up centers in 4 to 5 distinctive places in India, and they are doing. I know one of the researchers there, Sachin Ranade, who is incidentally from Pune, and he is heading all these division of or all these processes, and they are doing a fantastic job. So we have some ray of hope as far as the vultures are concerned. And the scavenging, sorry, I think, stepped up. Just give me 5 minutes and I'll finish up in 5 minutes. I think 40 minutes are done. So now what happens is, as you can see, the leopards in India have taken to scavenging. So here you can see a carcass, and there are 4 or 5 leopards feeding on this particular carcass. And this is where I am doing my PhD on the human-leopard coexistence. Now these leopards, they have virtually replaced the vultures, and they keep on cleaning all the carcasses in and around Jaipur city. So the villages which are next door to the Jalana forest, they just get the carcasses, dump them on the border of the forest, and the leopards do the rest of the job. So this is where we are based in Jaipur, and these leopards are very critical for the residents of Jaipur. It's a very small sanctuary, only 29 square kilometers, as you can see in the figure here. And we have a population of around 41 leopards who are working. Here you can see the city is almost on the border. Right next to the border, we have a big industrial estate, and we have villages around on the eastern flank. So these 41 leopards, they actually clean up, or they actually help, helping the residents, actually help the residents of Jaipur in maintaining their health systems. Now this happens a lot. There are leopards straying out. There is a lot of panic around. And these are our leopards who take their own turns in coming to the cities in search of food, in search of water, in search of shelter. But eventually, they provide fantastic ecosystem services. Now, what has happened, as I said earlier, feral dogs are a big threat for the wildlife. Here you can see a dog actually feeding on a black buck, which is a very beautiful antelope and very critical for the survival of other carnivores. Now the leopards, what they do is, they knowing that the feral dog population has gone up, they actually hunt dogs. And very recently, in one of the national parks, now a tigress has taken up to hunt dogs. Now, what is the effect of this? You can see all the cities in India where there are no leopards. There the rate of dog bites per million is high. And in my town, where there are a lot of leopards, is on the left, we have the least number of dog bites. So the leopards actually reduce the number of dog bites, they reduce the number of rabies cases, and eventually what they help the municipality or the government is with 7.5 million pounds worth expenses which they would have spent on vaccination or sterilization or treatment of rabies has been totally taken care by the leopards. And this is a very important ecosystem service which is given by the leopards. Now here you can see there is one villager who is actually worshipping the leopard. You can see a picture here of the leopards around his place, and this is where I live. It's my village, and he's one of the members of my team. And these are the villagers who are very enthusiastic about the leopards because they know the significance and they know why leopards are important, and that's why they are very much involved in the conservation, and they volunteer themselves to monitor the leopards, then to save the wildlife, to document using camera traps. They work with our foundation out there, and they work with the forest department also to actually rescue the leopards. And these are the hopes. These students or these volunteers is the real hope for us in conservation. Now we have a lot of other volunteers also coming in from all over the world who come and help us in our research work. Then eventually we do a lot of public outreach, and we this is my supervisor, Professor Ruben Youssef. You can see on the right top corner. And we keep on highlighting this issue that now leopards are not just a carnivore which is to be looked upon by an awe or with a great glamour, but these are the carnivores who are the future friends of humankind, and they do provide fantastic ecosystem services. So finally what we come down is there any chance that there is a human-wildlife coexistence possible? Let it be with vultures, let it be with the bustards, or elephants, or leopards, or tigers, or any species for that matter. And yes, there is a possibility, and the conditions in my forest, Jalana, very clearly demonstrate that a coexistence is possible with even a carnivore like leopard, and which can be replicated not only with the leopards around the world, but also with other species. And I think that's one of the very unique highlights that we have from the city of Jaipur in India. And as I said earlier, that an extinction of one species has really brought out another quality of another species, which is totally different as compared to the earlier one. And now the leopards and the tigers, they are really helping us out, filling in the gap for the extinct vultures. So thank you very much. Sorry, it was a very short one and probably too much of rushing around, but I hope I could give you a short picture of what's happening in India and the conservation scenario for birds and for the carnivores. Thank you. Thank you for a patient listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Swapnil, for a fascinating talk. Thank you very much. I think we have a couple of questions in the chat. Caroline said that she's been to parks for birds in northern India. Amazing in both cases. So a tiger really close up and lots of different birds.
Yeah, Caroline, it is really a man-made one. The Indian princess and the Maharajas, they knew how to lead a life, and so they wanted all these wildlife around them.
Do you know, when I went there, it's really fascinating. I went to Kerala and I had no idea. You cannot see from what it looks like that it's actually man-made. I honestly did not know that. It's absolutely fascinating. I saw the painted storks. I saw the Indian kingfishers. It was just an amazing place to be. It was very eco-friendly because we had a guy taking us around on a rickshaw, basically, and he was as a bike. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
Just to give you a quick tip on that, the painted storks, they don't have vocal sacs. So they just talk by clapping their beaks. So they too are very peaceful and very eco-friendly. They don't want much of a noise. They let the other guys in the heronry do the job for them. Yeah,
that's really interesting.
All right, I think Caroline has another question in the chat. How do you think the interaction between bird conservation and renewable power, wind and solar, will be managed in India obviously we need to expand renewable sources to get to net zero, but how do you think the interaction with conservation will play out?
Right, now I'm going to give you a politically correct answer for that. And this is a very, very tricky situation we have. It's all over the world that we have now the situation. We need a lot of, this is a very different set of equipment or different set of philosophy that we are going to put forward to the ecosystems. And the entire organism world has adapted themselves in the past, say, 60 years or 70 years to whatever systems have been in place. Now, I'll give a very specific example of what's happening with the Great Indian Bustard, and then you will come to know why I'm saying this. The solar panels that they put up in this particular desert national park and the desert around the desert national park, they are put up on slightly elevated mounds. Slightly elevated mounds is hardly, say, 10 feet to 50 feet, not more than 50 feet. Okay, it's a 5-story building, not more than that. And these mounts are very much conducive for generating electricity through solar panels, because then there is no shadow coming in. And in India, you know, we have got a lot of sunshine, so there's a huge expanse in the desert. Now, the problem here is these mounts or these small mounts are actually the courtship or the mating grounds for the Great Indian Bustard. So now, with that entire area, which is covered by the solar panels and the allied equipment that comes along with that, or the windmills that come along with that, the Great Indian Bustards somehow now are struggling to get a mount or slightly elevated grounds for their courtship rituals or their mating rituals. And generally what happens in any species, except humans, when they are in their mating season, they are very, very, I would say, isolated from the surroundings. They don't eat much, they don't feed much, they don't drink much water during that time. And they are the most vulnerable for predation during that time. And that is the reason they have these mounts wherein they go and have their mating rituals up there. Now, with this particular thing gone, these grounds being occupied by some other equipment, now we are really facing a big challenge for the survival, because if they don't mate, then if they don't mate in a very relaxed mood, they are threatened by habitat loss. See, the main problem here is habitat loss. Once we lose their habitat, then it's really going to be difficult for survival. Now, we will have to finally make a choice as humans, whether we want these kind of equipments, whether we don't. It's obvious that we cannot reverse our lifestyle. It's obvious that we cannot go back to living in a very primitive way. So, unfortunately, I don't have a magic wand right now to say what's going to happen with it. But especially in India, where we are a country like India, I would say, or developing countries anywhere in the world, wherein other kind of power resources are very expensive. Even in what is happening in Europe, now the gas prices, natural gas prices are skyrocketing. Similar thing happens in India with the fuel prices, petrol and diesel and everything going up. The governments will try and encourage people to have these kind of alternative sources, and that is going to create a threat, definitely. So there will be a rock bottom wherein the governments will be alarmed and the NGOs will wake them up, and then there will be different policies. But right now, things look pretty bad, to be very honest.
Thank you. Right. Katrina has a question in the chat about diclofenac.
Yeah, does it not affect the other scavengers? Yeah, as far as I know, I am not a veterinarian, but as far as I know, they don't affect carnivores. They affect only the vultures. And they don't even affect dogs. So no felids, no hyenids, no one is affected except the vultures. And that is why the entire vulture population is wiped out from India. 95% of population is wiped out only because of one drug in 30 years. Now, there might be, as we have variants coming up with the COVID or the coronavirus, there might be some other variants or some other, diseases which may be propagated because of use of other chemicals. But we will come to know about it in due course. This is very recent that the use of diclofenac has been prohibited. So it's only 1 or 2 generations after that the carnivores have taken to scavenging on a big scale. And actually, they didn't take to scavenging because the vultures are not there. They have taken to scavenging because there is a dearth or there is a scarcity of wild prey. So we will come to know about these kind of effects after a while. But incidentally, I just checked with one of the veterinarians, and he said that now we are using a drug called as meloxicam, which is used in livestock. And even this drug now doesn't have any ill effects, even on the vultures. So I think the meloxicam drug appears to be safe. But, the drugs are initially very safe unless they really show up with something else. So let's hope that the other carnivores are not affected. But we'll come to know in due course, because we have a huge population of livestock. And we will come to know that very quickly. Now than I think 10, 15 years, we'll come to some conclusion.
Simon, stand up.
Hi. I understand that the Indian government has only in the last year come up with a strategy about getting the vulture population recovered. What do you think will happen? Do you think that it's realistic for the population to recover, or do you think we've gone too far, really?
I think the alarm call came up pretty late, to be very honest. And there were 3 major species which were affected by this diclofenac. One is we call it the gyps. There is one species which is related to gyps of vulture, that is the white-backed, long-billed, and slender-billed. These 3 vultures were mostly affected. There are other vultures which are from the Himalayan region, and these vultures are not affected because they come only in the winters. Now what they are trying to do is they are trying to open up breeding centers and reintroducing centers all over India. And we still have some healthy populations in central India, in Rajasthan, and in the northeast of India. So we do hope that we will revive the population. And now what has happened is there are a lot of drugs which are very strictly banned in India. And the law enforcement is pretty strict. It's pretty good, actually. It's pretty good law enforcement. So we do have hopes. I can tell you because this guy who is working with those BNHs is a very good friend of mine. And we were talking about it a couple of months back about when we were talking about raptor research. And now they have started actually reintroducing vultures back. In the earlier stage, they were in the breeding stage. And now they are into reintroduction. So I think that will work. Of course, that needs a lot of funding. And with the funding coming in, I don't see there is any problem. It will take at least, say, 40, 45 years. And that's the time frame we are talking here. But I think it will come through.
Thank you very much.
Joe and Jeremy?
I did, but we've put it in the chat. There was a comment recommending Gujarat. I don't know whether there's any comments on Gujarat, but it's so different and a wonderful area, and probably not very much visited by foreign birders, I don't know, and wildlife people. The wild asses and the Asiatic lions and the wonderful wetlands. Just a comment.
I tell you what, it's one of the most wonderful birding spots in India.
Is it?
It's called, there are 2 places. One is called as the LRK, the Little Run of Kutch, and GRK, which is the Greater Run of Kutch.
Yeah.
And there you get the major species is pelicans and flamingos. They come there for breeding, and the amazing sight. And of course, the Asiatic lions and the wild ass. The wild asses you get in Ladakh, but the Asiatic lions you get only in that part of India.
Yeah, we saw them.
Yeah. And as I said in my first slide, in India it's like, oh, it offers you too much. You want to see. There's a place called Jamnagar, which is in the state of Gujarat, and that's the gateway to all these birding places. And actually, you go by the slums, you go by the normal brooks, or you go by normal rivers which are dried up, and you see plenty of birds out there. I mean, you don't even have to go to any typical birding protected area or something. We have a lot of bird conferences happening in Jamnagar, and what they do is they just take you around the city, and you come up with 130 species of birds and 150 species of birds just in a day or so. So what you say is right. Gujarat is one of the wonderful places for birding, of course.
Thank you. Yeah.
And mostly, if you are interested in waders, then waders are pretty in decent quantities out there. So
The crab plovers. The crab plovers are the things we remember most.
Crab plovers, the Indian skimmers,
Amazing.
and all the sandpipers and the snipes and everything. They're wonderful out there.
Yeah. Thank you.
We got Gehan.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, Swapnil. Thank you very much for a very fascinating talk. I have a couple of questions around what you said about the number of leopards. I thought you said there was something like 46 individuals in around.
I see your question here. Yeah.
Around 40 square kilometers. So the first is on the densities. I know now there are also sort of urban leopards around Mumbai, but I was just wondering, in terms of densities, is this the highest amongst one of the highest? And the second question is, given the high density of leopards and given that they seem to be used to people, is there sort of like leopard safari type of tourism developing there?
Okay, I'll just answer you the second question very quickly. Jalana is probably the only sanctuary in the world. I know there is a place called Yala National Park, but the density of leopards that you get in Jalana is amazing. There are safaris, wildlife safaris in Jalana, and we have a success rate of 95% for leopard sighting. And the leopards in Jalana, they behave like tigers. As you all know, that leopards are pretty elusive. They're shy animals. You can just get a glimpse of a leopard. Even if you get like 3 minutes of leopard sighting, it's a prize catch. But the leopards in Jalana, you get to see them for 25 minutes, 35 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and they are amazing. So we have these, even females with cubs, you can see them for length. They come and feed on carcasses, they do their own hunting, and we are one of the best leopard safaris. Jaipur is turning into a leopard capital. So we have another adjacent forest which they have very recently opened up for tourism, and combined we have a population of around 79 leopards. So safari, yes, definitely you must take a safari when you come to Jaipur. Coming to your first question,
I look forward to
coming to the first question, yes, we have the highest density of leopards in the world. This is 29 square kilometers, and the number of leopards, of course, we will eliminate the cubs right now, but we still have around 31 leopards, which are prominent in these 29 square kilometers. And we have come up with a research paper where we have actually identified the home ranges of the females which are resident there, and of the males which are visitors. So we have found out then that on an average, one leopard in Jalana has a area of 0.8 square kilometers. So it's not even one block or 2 blocks maybe. And that's pretty dense by any standards. It's very high density. And what we have observed here is that the mothers actually, they share their territories with their daughters. So eventually, the daughters also have their territories or home ranges next to their mothers. It's a female philopatry that is observed there. And the males, they don't have fixed territories. They come in and go out all the time. But yes, that is one of the very distinctive behavior of the leopards of Jalana. Even the carcass that you saw, there were 5 leopards feeding on that. And that's also very unique behavior. So we have seen very unique traits wherein I was once in Hong Kong and I saw that how people are living in, very close by apartments. Like I check out a hand from one window and I can jump in the next apartment. And that's how what's happening. With my apartment here, I'm lucky to see that there is nothing for 3 kilometers or 2 kilometers from here. And the next apartment is 2 kilometers. So it's all there. In Namibia, I was working that one leopard had a territory of an average territory of around 250 square kilometers. And here it's 0.8 square kilometers. So leopards are adaptive and they demonstrate very community behavior, very distinctive community behavior in Jalana. So it's a very interesting situation that we have there. So
thank you, Swapnil. If I can just jump in with another quick question. Do you see human leopard conflict developing as the population increases in the absence of vultures and they're scavenging, and then the leopards start spilling out more and more into urban areas and then going after people's domestic dogs and other pets?
So far, we are lucky because there is no conflict as such that has been demonstrated. On the eastern flank, we have small villages where they are not growing that fast as compared to the western flank, which is the main Jaipur city. So the eastern flank, it's like a slow breeding ground for the situation. Maybe we are still on the edge. We haven't identified whether we are on the edge or whether it's going to continue for the next 20 years, because there are highways coming up, there are small settlements that are growing into townships. All these things will come in. But we do have situations where the leopard, they definitely spill out. Every month, there is one leopard which is rescued from the city. But what we have observed so far is that the people of Jaipur, they actually don't mind which strays in the city. They are pretty much happy to close down that particular area. There are hyenas coming out, not only leopards. There are hyenas which come out. So they just immediately inform the forest department. All of them, they help the authorities to rescue that particular individual. And it's properly taken care of, and he or she is transferred back to the forest. Or if it's injured, it's taken back to the zoo for treatments. But the most important thing why there is no conflict is there is not a single human casualty so far. And that's one of the major reasons why we are still in that honeymoon period of coexistence, which is stretched for 300 years. And it's quite a good honeymoon period for 300 years of coexistence. But the main reason for that is there is no human casualty. The moment there is a human casualty, things will definitely change. And then we will have to handle the situation in a very different way. And that's where our research comes into play, because whatever data we collect for the forest department, they are able to define or plan or strategize their conservation efforts accordingly. So we are a little bit ahead of time, let's say. The forest department is also using a lot of technologies and equipments to monitor the leopards. Then DNAs are being taken, so we know what's going to happen probably, and the males are dispersing. So we are keeping a track of it, and we are hoping that till there is a human casualty, things will be okay. But once there is a human casualty, then people's or the stakeholders will have a different opinion about the.
Indeed. Sure. Thank you, Swapnil.
Okay. Caroline has some follow-up questions. Is Jalana a better place to see leopard than
Yes, it's one of the best. It's one of the best places to see the leopards. And I didn't actually have. It's the place where I live. I live right on the edge, on the eastern flank of Jalana, and we go out for our evening walk, and we can barely get 100 meters because we spot a leopard every day.
Wow.
There's a female called Zara, which actually crosses my terrace every day. So I know what time she's going to cross, and I just have my Indian chai ready, and then I see her every day, almost every day she passes by.
Yeah, and another interesting is that philopantry on the female line, the same in tigers, because Caroline said that when she was in Ranthambore, they said that the alpha female currently was a daughter of Machili, who was the previous alpha.
Yeah. Normally, in cats, they have these female philopatry, and the females, they do tend to share their territories with their daughters. And with tigers, what happens is, since they have a larger area to explore, then the males are pretty territorial. So, which is not the case in urban leopards, because urban leopards, poor guys, unfortunately, they don't have enough territory at all to guard that. But if you go to Africa, or if you go to bigger reserves, then definitely the males too have territories of their own. And tigers, of course, they protect, or they fiercely guard their territories, for sure. Even in Ranthambore, we know, but mostly they are nomadic. They love more girlfriends. That's what you see.
Thank you very much. Another question from Gehan. Have you radio collared any leopards for your study?
Well, I wish we haven't got any permissions yet. The leopard is under the vulnerable or near threatened species according to the IUCN list, and we have to get permissions from the central government, which is in Delhi, to collar the leopards. And very recently, there are two researchers in India who have collared leopards. One is in the Sanjay Gandhi Park, as you mentioned, in Mumbai. They have collared one leopard. And there are 3 leopards which have been collared in southern India. So they are right now working on it, and we hope that we will get these permissions in the coming future. The reason why there is no collaring for leopards is, the leopards actually, they are basically found in areas where there are tigers. And the tigers, they displace them on the periphery of the reserve or a protected area. So they come in more contact with humans. They are poached a lot. And as compared to tigers, they are poached a lot. And that's the main reason why the government is not ready to invest on any high-tech equipment on leopards. So it's like a stepson for the Indian government. Tiger is the flagship for India. And now Jalana is probably the only place where there are no tigers but a healthy population of leopards. So we are in the process of convincing the government and the Rajasthan Forest Department for collaring these leopards. So I'll drop a mail to the group that we have collared the first leopard, and then you would be delighted to see that.
Yeah, Alison?
Yeah, I just, maybe this is a naive question, but I just wondered, in your everyday life, do you see any birds around that are the same as you saw when you were here in Britain, when you were living here? Like, for example, do you have sparrows?
Oh, yes. We have sparrows, we have tits, we have francolins, then we have raptors, then we have woodpeckers, then we have kingfishers, and they're all around us. We have tree pies, and the place where I stay in Pune, we even have our bird baths up on the terraces and everywhere, and we record around 15 to 20 species of birds in Pune. Then in Jaipur, where I live, the entire community or the entire village, they have these kind of small pots, for the birds. And actually every household and every temple, in and around my place, they have these kind of pots for the birds. And we get almost 30 to 40 species of birds every day. Even lots of peacocks. They just come around in flocks, and they wake us up at 4 o'clock. The cuckoos and peacocks and everyone, they start waking us up at 4 o'clock. So we have a lot of birds around us. That's what you were asking for, like?
Yes, I just wondered if you saw like the same ones, like, you know, the house sparrows that we get here.
No, they are slightly different, and genetically they are different. But we do have house sparrows here as well. And I think the tits that you have, we have a similar family of tits in India. We have the great tit, the cinereous tit, and we have a black lored tit, which is very similar to. These three tits are mostly very similar to what you get in the UK. And but apart from that, we have the parakeets. You know that the parakeets.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have been brought from India. So these are the rose ring parakeets and the plum-headed parakeets. So these are the two absolutely same species that we have.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean,
and
in central London, we've lost a lot of the house sparrows. We don't have house sparrows anymore. Do you have the same problem in India?
yes, we have the same problem in India. And then there was a big drive here to save these sparrows. Which we started conducting this particular mission. We were on a mission actually with this. And when I'm saying we were on a mission, I am associated with one more NGO in Pune who is working on specifically on the ringing of birds and conservation of birds. And then we actually started working on that. And now we have come to a point where we have revived few populations of house sparrows. And yes, there was situation where there were no house sparrows at all, and they estimated or they concluded that the mobile towers, we have too many of them, and these mobile towers were one of the reasons why the house sparrows were disoriented and they tried to go away from the urban scenario. And then they were there in the nearby villages. So we are, I think, reviving those populations of house sparrows for sure.
Thank you.
Another question from Gehan. For camera trapping, do you need central government permission again, or is that obtained at local level?
Oh, that's obtained at a local level. When I apply for my research permits, then there are two ways of research that we carry out. One is an invasive technique and one is a non-invasive technique. So this comes under non-invasive technique, where we don't alter or change any of the natural components in the ecosystem. And for that, we don't need any separate permission. But for invasive techniques, that is coloring or taking DNA samples, we need to get permission from the central government. But these camera trapping permissions, we get it at a local level from the local forest department.
Very much. Any more questions or comments or ideas that you like to share? Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we will just wrap up today's meeting, and let's thank Swapnil again for a fascinating talk and show us amazing wildlife in India, and thank you for your time to stay with us at the hour in there. Thank you very much.